What's up, everyone? Thanks for tuning in to the third and final part of this episode 85 interview with Vernon Law. So in episodes 1 and 2, we learned about his background, we learned about his professional career, and now we got all the way up until his 1960s World Series. So we're going to learn more about what it was like to play in the World Series against a team like the Yankees, and not only play, but actually win the World Series. So you're going to want to listen in and hear what it was like from a pitcher that actually was part of this whole entire experience. And one other thing we're going to learn about is the fact that Vern is not the only talented guy in the family. It goes down generation after generation, so he'll talk a little bit about that as well, and we'll give you someone to root for moving forward. This is an awesome story, an honor to have Vern on the show, and I hope you guys have enjoyed parts 1 and part 2, and I know you're going to enjoy part 3, so thanks for tuning in. Share it with your friends and family, and I hope you enjoy this last part of episode 85. I want to get into this World Series talk, right, because not many people, no, we don't get to speak to a ton of people who have ever played in a World Series, and you know, you guys had so much success, obviously because of the team as a whole did well, but you yourself, you know, you were an amazing pitcher, but you were known as a two-way player because you could actually hit the ball as well. Now, we're getting into the World Series. Talk about the World Series experience going up against these, you know, the infamous Yankees, right? This is a big-time team with big-time players, and maybe talk about some of the players that you faced and basically your way of playing, pitching and hitting.
Well, yes, we knew we were we knew we were the underdogs. They were supposed to beat us 4 straight. I mean, it was predicted because there's no way with home run hitters, Mickey Mantle, and Roger Maris, the whole lineup, Moose Skowron, Yogi Berra, all those guys had proved themselves, and so it was really interesting that, that for us, as the underdog, to even have a chance to win, and they had a great manager in Casey Stengel, and he knew how to run the team. He had a good team, an outstanding team. There's no question about it. I started the series off, and we had a scouting report given to us because they had, I don't know who wrote up this report, but they followed the Yankees and watched the hitters and pointed out their strong points, weak points, and so forth, and so on, and we had that report. We went over their report about each one of the Yankees and how to pitch to them, and so that really helped because being there in the other league, we don't have a chance to watch them or to see anything or know anything about them, and so that report was very helpful. I can just say that their report was good, but on 2 guys, they were wrong. One of them was Moose Skowron, and another, their shortstop, Tony Kubek. They said you could pitch him outside. Okay? Well, when they got up there, if you went up and down their lineup, you would. Matter of fact, when you came to Mickey Mantle or Roger Maris, I had Ted Williams ask me, "How'd you pitch to them?" I says, "Inside." He says, "What? You're crazy. Pitch them inside?" And I said, "Well, when I say inside, I mean about 6 inches off of the plate inside, and if they hit that ball, it's going to be hit foul. But most of the time, they'll take it, but the half swing, well, back then it wasn't a half swing. If they swing at the ball, 90% of the time, they're going to miss it, And so, anyway, that proved to be very helpful to me. But what I would do, then I would drop away from those 2 guys with a breaking ball, hit the outside corner, or a fastball, or a changeup, I'd change speeds on those guys and get them out in front, and they'd hit a little ground ball or something. But each one of those kind of guys, you had to be very careful, because if you just rear back and throw fastballs to them, they're going to catch up to you, in a hurry. And they're both of them were very good fastball hitters. But a guy like Yogi Berra, the report on him, it says he's a very aggressive hitter. He'll swing at anything you throw up there. And so, I tell you, I threw the ball up and in, and he'd swing at it. Matter of fact, he grounded into a double play in a very crucial part in one of the games I pitched in New York, and we got a double play out of it. But, cause he didn't run all that great, but but everything. And so it was tough. It was tough pitching to some of these guys. But anyway, they, I think, come in a little bit overconfident, because they didn't, with all the hitting and power they had, and plus good running speed on the players and so forth, they, fortunately, I was able to hold them down to the point where we could have a chance to win. The games that we did win were like 3-2, or 4-3 or something like that. There were always very close games, except for the 7th game. And that was, if Murtaugh was alive today, I'd ask him, why'd you take me out going into the 7th? Because I'm not going to give up 6 runs in the last 3 innings, But that was one of the situations that I'm sure that the manager wished he had left me in there, because I had a 5-1 lead going into that the 7th inning. And they did score 1 run off from me, which made it 5-2. But I've always worked myself out of a little trouble, that I was in, and certainly with the hitters that they had coming up after me, I had pretty good luck with them. But that playing against them, you had to be very careful and to change. I'd change speeds on them and so forth, so that they had. And timing, the hitter has, they time you. They know that they'll catch to you if you throw the same speed all the time. But I'd change speeds on them, and that really helped me to keep the score down. But anyway, we win the first game. Bob Friend pitches the second game, and he had one of the worst series of any pitcher could have. It was a nightmare kind of a thing with him, because the games that he pitched, I don't think he lasted 3 innings in either of those games. Bob was kind of a different personality. Matter of fact, he's so hyper that I don't think he knew what town he was in, because he was, sometimes pressure gets to people, and I think that just something, a big stage like this in the World Series, you feel like, that you're overwhelmed and so forth, and you're so excited, and, you just lose that little edge when you can't stay calm and just accept it as another ball game. And I can tell you, I didn't sleep too much, prior to my pitching, because I was going over the hitters in my mind and how I was going to pitch to them. So it was that, cause it's a big thing. It's a big deal. It really is for a player. I mean, this is something you wish and pray for, for your whole career, just to have an opportunity to play in a World Series. So yes, there's a lot of excitement, a lot of apprehension. That first game, I was ready to go at 3 o'clock in the morning. I don't know whether I slept any during the night or anything. It was just that how it affects you. But I just kind of kept my cool, and I was so excited to get to the bullpen and start throwing. And then when I got out on the mound, they played the national anthem, and here you stand waiting to get started. Even that being, kind of shakes you up a little bit. And so now finally the game does get started, and throwing that first strike is important for any pitcher. to get ahead of the hitter immediately so that you can make him, chase some bad pitches in the strike zone and so forth. Yeah, that's the way you have to do it. And I just stayed cool, and my tunnel vision was I didn't let the crowd or the TVs or the cameras that I knew were placed around. My tunnel vision was I could see the hitter, the umpire, and my catcher. And I concentrated on that, and tried to hit that target every time he'd throw that glove up there. And so that's how I approached it, and unfortunately I could focus in on that and forget about all the other stuff that was going on around me, and with encouragement from my teammates, our third baseman, Don Hoke, was kind of the straw boss of the outfit, and he just kind of, he'd step in, come on, Deacon, just make them hit me a ground ball. We'll get you a double play and get out of here. He was always very positive with his encouragement with me. If he thought the pitcher wasn't giving his best, he'd go out there and he could make the hair stand up in the back of your head with the language he'd use. But he never did that with me. He was always very positive, and which I really appreciated. Even when Murtaugh took me out that seventh game, he come up and said, "Now, Deacon, when you walk off the mound, you keep your head up. Don't look down." So, anyways, he was there for me, which I really appreciated. So then, that's kind of the way it went, during that series. But that was very, very important to me. But let me just say, in the seventh game, that bothered me quite a bit, being taken out. But it was something that he thought was best. Well, as it turned out, it's okay. But I can't say it was the best, because when my reliever came in, he threw out a 3-run homer to Yogi Berra, and that tied the score up, and so that took the win away from me, like it often happened during my career. I don't know if the fans will remember this. I'm sure they probably won't. But Elroy, our reliever, our short reliever, the emphasis back then was on starting pitching, not the bullpen, but it's the bullpen now. You got to have people in the bullpen that can come in and win the game for you, because a starter, after 5 innings or 6, or throwing 100 pitches, they take you out. But that didn't happen back then, But this particular year, the Elroy was 18-1. Well, let me tell you, 7 of those victories were mine. I'd be ahead or something in the ball game, going into the last inning or two, and Murtaugh would take me out, and Rory would come in, they'd score a run to tie it up, and then the next inning they'd score a run, and he'd end up winning the game. And that happened, 7 times back then, and it was just that particular year. But Roy did pitch well in the World Series. He came in and did a pretty good job. The Yankees hammered him, pretty good. But particularly in that 7th game, I think they finally caught on to how he fixed his forkball in his glove, and they could see that and knew what he was going to throw. And I think that kind of hurt the situation for him. But anyway, that was the way it was during the series. But I will say this, the Yankees scored twice, well, even more than twice the runs than we did. But the games that I pitched, and also Harvey pitched, he pitched a good game in New York, and then he was the last pitcher that came in to win the 7th game when we won that 10-9 on Mazeroski's home run. But Whitey Ford was in the bullpen the 7th inning of that last game. He was ready to come in, but he chose to bring in Stafford, a pitcher that, he's a good big league pitcher, but he came in, but we ended up hammering him and had a 5-run inning, and so we took the lead. by 2 runs. And so now we're in the 9th inning of that 7th game, and so Murtaugh chose to put Bob Friend out there to get 3 outs. Well, the first 2 hitters up got base hits, and so out comes Friend, and now in comes Harvey Haddix. And before Haddix could get 3 outs, those 2 guys that got base hits off a Friend scored. And so now they've tied it up, and so anyway, he gets out of the inning, and so now we're at home in Pittsburgh. We're up to bat, and that's when Mazeroski hit the home run off of Ralph Terry. But I will say, in all honesty, the Yankees had a better ball club than we did, without question. They scored so many more runs than we did. But the games that myself and Haddix pitched, we kept the score down so that we had a chance to win, and in those games we did win. The scores were close, but that's the way it happened in that series. But with Stengel, that cost him his job, because if he had brought in Whitey Ford, who shut us out one game, and I think maybe we scored 1 or 2 runs off from him in the 2 games that he pitched, and so, but he was in the bullpen ready to come in. Had he brought him in, well, you don't know what's going to happen. But I don't think with the lead that they had after I left the game, we may not have won that series. But thanks to Casey Stengel bringing in Stafford, we was able to come up with a win. So anyway, that's kind of the way that series went. Back and forth until we was able to put it away.
What an amazing, as you're talking about it, I'm just sitting here and embracing it. I can feel the emotions of the series. And obviously I wasn't born yet. I have no idea, but I can feel it because of the way that you're explaining it. And that's awesome to hear. Now, Vern, your career went on after the World Series and everything, and then it came to an end, but you still stay involved in the game. And from my understanding, baseball kind of runs in your family. And to finish up the interview, if you wouldn't mind kind of just telling us about how special your family actually is, because it's not just you. I think you had a son, could you explain the baseball in the DNA, I guess, of your guys' family and how that's continuing on?
Well, it was hard. Yeah, I did probably my best year in baseball was 65 after the series, because I could have won every game that year, if I'd had better support. But I started off the season 0-5, with an ERA just slightly over 1 run per game. We were making errors and not playing well. The team had changed somewhat, and so. It was not, my earned run average for the year was, I think, 2.12 or 13, something like that, But I never had any blowout games or anything, I pitched really well, but let me just say, I had to pitch that series on a sprained ankle because guys messed around after we won the pennant in Milwaukee and knew that, that we was going to play in the World Series. I mean, they celebrated, but some of them celebrated just a little bit too much, and so I got hurt during the celebration. The guy tried to take off my shoe. I was sitting on the bus, minding my own business, and they were cutting ties, tearing their shirts off of guys and so forth. This all happened, and it was just, a bunch of high school kids, and they ripped shirts off of guys and so forth, and so we had, it was not the way that I like to celebrate at all, but that's what happened. And so, I was the last one who was fully clothed, and so they, 5 guys picked me up, and they started to, but the one guy tried to take off my shoe, and I tightened my foot up real tight, and he was twisting, and I heard something pop, and so. Then that stopped it, and so I pitched on a taped ankle, my right foot, the one that I push off from, and during the process, during those, the series, that I retore my shoulder muscle. And so now I struggled for about 2 or 3 years with it. And I was still winning a few games, but not pitching like I was capable of pitching. And so, that went on. And so finally after, 65, in the 66 and 67 year, I came back as a pitching coach to them for the 68, 69 year, and finally they changed managers, and the manager wanted me to come back and be his pitching coach, and I said no. I've made a decision. I said I've watched I've watched too many players not give their best. They're chasing around, they're doing things that they shouldn't be doing. I just got fed up with it, and even though I had an opportunity to go be traded to Philadelphia, Gene Mock was coaching at the time, and I was always throwing at least an hour batting practice every day while being a coach, and he says, Vern, would you consider signing with us? You pitch better and throw harder than any of my pitchers. And I said, well, no, I've made up my mind, and I've saw Robin Roberts and Warren Spahn hang on, and they couldn't get through 3 innings, and so on and so forth. I said, I've had enough, and so I left the team, and then they came here, and I helped my son Vance, by throwing a lot of batting practice at him, and I took a job here at BYU as a pitching coach, and I did all of that. Yes, Vance signed a professional contract also. I could tell you a story about that, but I know you've probably heard enough of my stuff. But anyway, he had a good career, a very good career in the big leagues, and really played well. Wherever he was, he was a competitor, and he was one of the guys that you had to have on a team because he could make all the plays, and he'd get hit behind the runners and do things, hit a few home runs and so forth, and batted well. Was an all-star, and I think it was 81, when he was an all-star for the Cubs. He went over to Japan and played. And had a great year over there, hit over 30 home runs, drove in over 100 runs, and was an all-star there and so forth, and had $1 million contract offered to him, but he wouldn't go back to Japan, and because his wife Sharon was pregnant at the time, and he's going to stay here, and so, he coached here at BYU and did a great job for the team here, but he finished up his career with the Athletics, the A's. They're in California and Oakland, and so anyway, he had a great career. Now we're rooting for a grandson, Adam, Vance's son, Adam, who played AAA last year, and so it's still in our blood. I really enjoy watching the games, and I still have a hard time thinking that why has the game changed so much? First year man in the big leagues today makes $595,000 his first year. I didn't make a third of that in 20 years of being there in Pittsburgh, and I don't know. Then you read you guys, $121 million. How much do you need? This is ridiculous. The guys being paid that to play a wonderful game. I have a hard time with all that, but it gives you even that first year. Would have given me the security that I needed, to take care of my family and so forth. But, it doesn't, the game has changed an awful lot. But, yes, but it's still a great game. I'm still rooting for Adam to have that. He's got the talent to be there. And I think we ought to do we ought to do what the Japanese do. They allow 2 foreign players on the club because we got enough American good ball players that can play in the big leagues, but they're not getting the opportunity because they have signed some of these Latin players for like giving them a bonus of $30 million just to sign and so forth. It's ridiculous, you know. But I think the Japanese has got it right. We ought to have a real, true World Series by them winning their league, the Latins winning their leagues. We have a true World Series among, you know, and let our American players have the opportunity to get in the big leagues and play as well. So, anyway, that's my feeling. I don't know whether anyone would accept that, but because there are some great Latin players that we have here playing for our teams, and that's wonderful, you know, that they're playing and performing well. But it is kind of a thing with me that we also need to have opportunities for the American kids that are working hard and giving sacrifice and doing the best they can and playing very well and can play in the big leagues if they're given the opportunity. But with foreign players, you know, and certainly they deserve a chance too. But they ought to keep them in their own country, let them develop their teams, you know, and to the point where they can challenge anybody, and they can do that. They can do that, you know, and that would be good, I think, to have a true World Series that way.
I like it. That's definitely an interesting take, and it's something to keep in mind because I don't think a lot of people actually really talk about that, but it's a very good point to make. And we're rooting for your family as well, so he can make it up there. That would be 3 generations. That's insane to hear about, man. That's just crazy. And, you know, Vern, I really appreciate you taking the time to speak with us and share your full journey representing for the good old city of Meridian, Idaho, which has grown substantially since you were here. But it's really cool to hear about. It's definitely cool to hear that somebody like yourself was able to make it up there and have such an amazing journey, and then obviously continue on, you know, as it goes through the family with this amazing baseball talent. So I appreciate you, sir, for taking the time to speak with us today.
Okay, well, go Warriors there in Meridian.
Absolutely, go Warriors. And Vern, once again, thank you so much. We look forward to seeing the success of your family members that are playing baseball, and we just really appreciate you sharing your journey with us. And for all the listeners out there, you know the drill. We'll talk to you next week. Guys, thanks so much for listening to another episode of my show. Now, if you could go and do me a favor, head over to iTunes, give me 5 stars, and leave me a review. It would be greatly appreciated. Thanks, guys. Appreciate your support.